have a great fear of the Lord, which means a great respect. Plus, it breaks me. When I read the book of Deuteronomy, it brings me to tears all the time. Do you know why? Because you can see God's love. One can actually capture what God was doing. And you know what he said? He said one statement. He said, oh, if they would just hear me and keep my words. But that statement, oh, before it, is almost like an emotional plea. It's almost like he desperately desires to bless you. But God will not bless anything that is outside, that is not his, that will not acknowledge him in all of its ways. But I do know that God desperately wanted to bless his people. And he said, if you can keep my words, you're going to be blessed. You won't have to borrow from anybody. You will subdue the world. Everybody will fear you. They won't fight you. You will make the decisions in the earth because you keep my ways that are upright. And through you, this entire earth will be subdued. That's what God said in Deuteronomy. But he also said, because you're stiff-necked in time, you're going to drift away. Because you're stiff-necked. Because you will not keep it. Because you're stubborn and you won't listen. You're going to forget my ways. You're going to defile yourselves, and I cannot have a defiling element in direct representation of me. Because he made a plea, oh, if you would keep my ways. But in the book of Deuteronomy, it was spoken in such a way that even right now, Jesus amplified the love of God, but often we don't understand the love of God. We don't understand it. For example, God said to them that if they would employ his ways, in that same moment, God loves them so much, he would reverse everything. He said, because if you listen and uphold his ways, you're under a blessing. But if you don't listen, you're under a curse that's already there. A curse is when you reap darkness and death and all things upon everything you do. A blessing is when everything you do prospers, everything you set your hands to, everything you set your mind to. But they wouldn't keep it. Moses said the same thing. Joshua said the same thing. You guys will not keep it. You won't keep his ways. You're going to you keep drifting. You have a rebellious element that you love, and you won't keep his ways. And then they were blessed for so long, they began to abuse it. They began not to listen to the Lord. He said that every so often, that everybody in Israel was to be gathered together, right? The appointed person would read the words that God gave them to remind them. He delivered them out of bondage, but he set them free to remind everybody, to teach their children of the same thing, that it was God that set you free. He said to do that often, to gather everybody, and everybody was to come so that the children who don't know the story would know the story. And then I look at my own life, and it kind of breaks you because you don't instantly tell your children that story. And it breaks me because who is out there teaching? And they're not giving us. I didn't learn this from anybody. I had to go read it. I had to go study. I had to go persevere. They don't teach this stuff. These are basics. But because they don't teach it, it's not passed down, and things are getting corrupted more and more. All of us are fighting elements of flesh we don't even understand, and we don't know how to conquer it. We're trying to incorporate that. We're trying to utilize. See, the world has taught us so many things and then passed down from generation to generation. We're caught in our own story, still trying to make a name for ourselves. This is the ideology within us, and they suffered from that same thing. God said, you never have to do that. I will announce you to the world. My works will be in you. I will show up for you if you keep my sayings. And you know what his sayings? If you go through and you read what the Lord desired of us, he would say, my goodness, who couldn't do this? What is wrong with us? But teaching is important. When you're a child and people don't teach their children these things, it's almost like a resistive element within parents saying, well, I can't teach my kids this now. I'll have to do it later. It's always this do it later thing in it. Aren't you tired of walking around? You've read the Bible, but there's no strength in you. There's no power. We run around declaring things, don't we? When God clearly said he would do those things for us. We're trying to survive by utilizing bits and pieces of the Word. But see, we need to be brought up in the Word. There's a difference in being brought up in the Word and then grabbing pieces of it, trying to utilize it in your life and get everything wrong. Once we have that foundation again, I'm telling you, everything else is clarified. You won't even have the questions that you have, but you will begin to recognize. And see, that's when you call out your brother and your sister. That's when folks are open. As a result of not having that foundation, we have been operating by a power. And I can tell you right now, it's not all God's power. We have been reading his word, trying to escape something. We have an escape mentality. That's the first thing that should be corrected in this study. We need not escape anything, but sometimes, because of the language used in the latter half of the story, we can believe it to be one thing, but in truth it's not. We lock on to terms like that, and we start to develop emotions around it. In the Bible it says that if you're caught in sin, God will make a way of escape. Listen, a way of escape simply means an exit, a way to not do the sin anymore, a way to get out of the entire situation, a way to step out of death back into life. See how different that sounds? But if you just say a way of escape, everybody thinks, oh, get your bags and run like a chicken. That's not what it means. A way of escape means an exit. God will give you a door that you may open up and exit all that sin, that you may be in life again. And one of the missing components in many people's lives is they don't comprehend how much God loves them. And you cannot comprehend that without knowing a history of how the Lord interacted with humanity and what he did and what he did not do. You have to know those things, because I tell you, if beginning in Deuteronomy, it will break you down to tears. I'm telling you. I know it gets me every time, because you begin to see the persona of the Father, not to make him into a person, but you begin to see who he is. You hear him talk. You start to understand what he desires of us, why he made us, what he's doing already. You'd be shocked to know what the Lord has done in your life, what he's already done in your life, with what he's already done in your life. And you can know that. That would change your life forever. There's nothing in me that desires to dispute anything God ever said. You know why? Because all of it rings incredibly true. And do you know what? That's something we don't think about enough either. Why is it? You can read lots of reports and information and everything, but when you hear the words of your Father, it is law in your soul. People should jump up and down just because of that fact. That's incredible. Of all of what you read, it's when you read the Bible, when you hear the words of the Lord, that's when you bind it. It becomes law. It's a deep confirmation within you. That is supernatural. There's some abominations that this world has to get rid of. God even said some very harsh things about the times we live in right now. What did Jesus say? He said, if you continue in my word, you are my disciples indeed, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. Freedom comes when you have the truth. To have a truth is not simply to know that the Father's good. No. To know that your Father's good is to know what he has done in all circumstances. That's when you say, my Father is good, and you're just reading, you're just stating it because you read it somewhere, there's no connection with it. When you know the stories, when you see what he has done, when you see what he did not do, then you'll say, no, my Father is good. You remember Jesus when they said, oh, good teacher. He said, the Father is good. He stopped them. When you know the stories, when you see what he did, that's when your life changes. That's when a fire really begins that nobody can ever put out. That's when your life, you make one of those life commitments, not by your mouth, because you will have read something else about making decrees. But in your soul of souls, you'll truly seek the will of God, and you'll do so without tiring. There's a reason people get weary with things of the word, and it was named by God himself. God told us why we would get weary. He answered all these questions. But you know what happened? Nobody armed us when we were growing up. I think that many of God's children at that time, they were distracted by the newness of things that man was creating. In that moment, they began to worship man. They began to do everything they could to empower themselves. In fact, that's when all the motivational speakers came. You remember that? See, if you operate by truth, you don't need a motivational speaker. When you have the Word of God, you do not need a motivational speaker. But during that time when we spoiled ourselves and we were worshiping man, worshiping gadgets and toys like nowadays, if a new iPhone comes out, everybody runs to it. If there's a presidential election, everybody gets involved. It pulls out our souls and we're not even thinking right. Why do you think so many of us are hungry? Lord knows I have a hunger that only the Word can satisfy, and is fully satisfied by doing the will of the Father, which are the words of Christ. But it's time that all of us know that. I tell you, it's almost like people are keeping secrets about the Word too. Simple, small things that can free a person, they will not enter into those subjects. And Satan has set an offense before everything so that nobody talks about anything. I'll tell you right now, I love my Father in heaven. I trust His Word. When He names abominations, when He names blessed things, I believe in them wholeheartedly. I believe we are the ones who have lost our minds, who have played around in life and through rebellion have tried to form an identity. But I also have a hope in anyone who has been living in high rebellion. I don't judge because it's your life and your death. So I'm not going to judge. I will encourage. But I can tell you right now, when the Lord said certain permanent things, like put an end to certain things and this, that, and the other, I'll be careful to do them. The God of forces is a God that's a strange God, a God his fathers knew not. We can establish something from this. A lot of people say, well, it's one of the ancient gods. No, it isn't. Daniel chapter 11 says this. I'm going to start 36. And a king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god. So if he magnifies himself above every god, first of all, to do that means that anything of authority, this guy is going to think himself to be above. Anything man appointed, any ancient god, anything known, he's going to appoint himself as being above. And it says, and he shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. And by the way, the indignation is the indignation of the Lord. He'll do this until the indignation of the Lord is accomplished. And why is this the indignation of the Lord? That is set in the book of Jeremiah. The indignation of the Lord is against the people in his land for what they did. And he said he would not turn away until his indignation is fulfilled. This is that incident of God's indignation of all the things on the earth. The trampling of Jerusalem underfoot for 42 months is in fact God's indignation. What is he doing here? He is allowing the beast to operate, to fulfill his indignation, to fulfill what he already stated in the book of Jeremiah, that he would not turn away until his indignation be fulfilled. It also says something else in the book of Revelation regarding this very fact. Revelation 17 says, I'm going to start 16. And the horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. He put it in whose hearts? The 10 kings. The 10 kings of what? Of the beast. You guys following me? Daniel 11:31. And arms, or armies, shall stand on his part, and they, collectively, they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. God put it in their hearts. Even in the book of Daniel, it says, if we back up one scripture, here it is. It says, for the ships of Shittim shall come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them, plural, and arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. That is an unholy alliance. Put together those who have indignation or hatred against the Holy Covenant. All those folks are going to get together in the Middle East right now. You know the countries that always said that Israel does not rightfully have rule in Israel, that they shouldn't be there. That land was promised to somebody else. This is what the Muslims think. So at the core of that belief, there is a land dispute. All those countries are going to get together and go against Israel and win and take her over. And in Revelation 17, God puts it in their hearts so that this thing may command their countries to accomplish this. And they set up the abomination that make it desolate. And at that time, what did Jesus say? Those in Judea flee into the mountains. So they collectively run in there and set this thing up. Now, back in Daniel 11:36, we're going back here. It says, and a king shall do according to his will. It's talking about the guy that orchestrated the invasion of Jerusalem. And he will exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Now, that is determined shall be done is a clear hint. Only God has power to do what he has determined to do. Nobody else has power. God even says so multiple times in the Bible, that nobody else has power to accomplish what they're saying they're going to accomplish, but only that God has power to do this. That means God can interrupt everything. Only God has it. So that thing that is determined is why God put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, which is what? The trampling of Jerusalem underfoot 40 and 2 months. About this person worshiping a God, he worships a God of forces. It continues, it says, neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of a woman, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. The first beast, it is formed out of the people of earth. So we know that the first beast are kingdoms on the earth. The second beast is not a kingdom out of the earth because he comes out of the land. Anything that comes out of the land was also described in the Old Testament as being what? Spiritual. It's a manifestation of sorts. So that think of something ascending out of the earth and entering into a man. This is what happens here. He has 2 horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. What 2 horns like a lamb indicates a holy figure. So this guy, the second beast, the false prophet. But here's where they made a mistake. I hear a lot of people say it's going to be the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, not realizing that the second beast is the false prophet. And in the movies, they had the false prophet as some news reporter or something, and the first beast as the Antichrist. That's wrong, wrong, wrong. That's not what the Bible states. That is one of those theoretical narratives that's popular for Hollywood, but makes absolutely no sense and is certainly taken out of context. That is a runaway teaching where the basis of it is all corrupted. And what that does is give somebody an idea so they can promote movies. Anyway, this second beast has 2 horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. A dragon or draconian speech is authoritative speech, legal speech, political speech. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him. How does a person exercise the power of a collection of nations? I'll tell you, when he rises to the position over them all. To exercise the power of a nation, you have to be appointed the ruler of that nation and exercise the power. So let's continue. So he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast. Now let me pause here real quick. It didn't say he asks. That's not what it said. He causes. Causing somebody to do something, that's manipulation. That is to set things up so a person will end up doing something. This word in the Kano Greek is not causing, but it is an action word implying that a person is setting up something to make another one obey. Sounds like our world, doesn't it? He causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. By the way, the deadly wound, one of the heads of the beast was wounded. It describes in Revelation 17 what the heads are. The heads are the 7 mountains, or 7 nations. And one of those nations were as it were wounded to death, and it says by sword. Sword means war. So one of the nations was wounded by war, a deadly wound, which means it fell in wartime, and it looked like it would never rise again. But that nation did rise again. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in sight of men. So imagine a holy figure rising up in the Middle East, and it already tells of the nation he comes from, just so you know. He comes up from a small people. Through flatteries, he wins the people over. But the people in power do not give him the honor of the kingdom. So you have elected officials who don't give him the honor of the kingdom. That was stated in the book of Daniel, but the people like him there. And he does what nobody else has been able to do. He scatters among them the prey, the spoils, and the riches. So he causes them to prosper. He comes up from a small people. And it says he stays within the province. So he's doing what he does around the Middle East. See, the Bible often uses terms for nations. Just like if you guys knew me personally, you might say, well, where's the nice guy at? If you wrote that down, but it was a consensus that everybody knew me as the nice guy, then everybody would know who you're talking about. But on down the road, they would be like, well, they were looking for a guy called Nice Guy. Let's go find names that match Nice Guy. That's what they would do. And they would say, well, we don't have anybody named Nice Guy. We don't have a birth record or anything. No, that's because that depicts the person's character. And then it was agreed to who that person was. Now, God does the same thing. In the Bible, you'll see the same setup. All the information is there. The problem is, it must be discerned spiritually. You can't read this logically and apply it as you see it and extract the truth. You're going to get part of an outline, but you're not going to know who is who. Spiritually, you can know who is who. It's already there. The beast is bad, and the beast hates this woman. That's a dead giveaway. She is the mother of harlots. It's not the U.S. The mother is the very first harlot. Not the second, not the third. The U.S. is a brand new nation. The U.S. is not the mother of harlots. The mother of harlots had to be one bound to someone. There's only been one nation bound to a great someone. But that's distasteful. When people hear that, they reject it. Why? They would rather believe a lie. And in this day and age, people want things that taste good. They want the good stuff. Don't give me the true stuff. Give me the good stuff. I know this is healthy for me, but I don't want it. I want this pizza. Don't give me the nourishing stuff. You see, that's how people are. People are consistent through and through, and society tells you everything about a person you need to know. All you have to do is analyze society, and you'll see the people. If you don't know the people of a nation, all you have to do is look at society. Society is based and does indeed operate by what people want. So society is a reflection of what's inside the people, something they cannot deny. Let's continue. Back to Revelation. He exercises all the power of the first beast before him and causes the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Now, if he causes them to worship the first beast, and in Daniel we just read, in his stead he'll worship a strange God, a God his fathers knew as just a strange God, then we see it right here. He's the one that causes everybody to worship the first beast. So what is this strange God? If the first beast is a collection of nations, and then he goes on and says, and he doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven in sight of men, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in sight of the beast. Listen, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. So he made the people of the earth erect a god that he worshipped. And they did this. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should speak, and it causes many that would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This strange God that he worships in Revelation is showing us exactly what that God is. When you make an image to something, because in Daniel it says this. Now, keep your finger in Revelation 13:5. Let's go back to Daniel real quick. And in Daniel 11 it says, when it's talking about this thing, it says, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge. That's a key word right there. Whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. It's a very important word, acknowledge. Daniel 11:39 is very telling, because he's going to acknowledge this thing. Now, when he acknowledges this thing and increases it with glory, he does something else. And he shall cause them, plural, more than one, them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. What are the them? This strange God, he's going to acknowledge and increase with glory. This thing is something he made. He's going to cause them to rule over many. What did it just say in Revelation? Because we're talking about the same thing here. But what did it say in Revelation? It said what? He had power to do what? And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and it cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. He's the same one that gives life to the image of the beast. What did he just say in Revelation? That he told the world they should make an image to the beast. What is he doing here? And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. Who had power to give life unto the image of the beast? Revelation 13:5. The Antichrist did. Then in the book of Daniel, we can clearly see, with this strange God, which he increases with glory, and he acknowledges this thing, and he causes them to rule over many, the God of forces. Revelation tells us the second beast tells the world they should make an image to the first beast, who had a deadly wound by a sword and did live. And he causes them, when they make this image, then he had power to give life unto that thing, right? And Daniel's talking about the same guy. And it says, he's not going to regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of a woman, nor any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. And a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Now, in Revelation, he points out, hey, you should make an image to the first beast. That's what he says. Why? Because he's acknowledging it. And he tells the world they should make an image to it. Then he gives life to it. Here, it says, he's going to do something with a strange God, the God of forces. He's going to do what? Acknowledge and increase it with glory. He did the same thing in Revelation. So it's talking about the same thing. Revelation tells us what it is. The God his fathers knew not, which means it cannot be a God that anybody knew about previously. It must be a brand new God. But obviously it's a God that nobody knows about until he comes around and he makes people worship it, so nobody else was worshiping it, which means it just popped up when he came on the scene, which means he made that God for people to worship, because he made people to worship the image of the beast. The beast is the God he will make the world worship, just like they worship the shadow of it now. Right now, people worship it. We're not talking about a God that you get on your knees to and pray. We're not talking about our Father, nor are we talking about a God you cannot see. But we're talking about a type of thing that you interact with every single day, a type of thing that yields in your life every single day. Oh my. Something that you live by, something that you operate by, something sadly many have already committed to, something that is deadly, something very few know the history of, and it is brand new. Well, it's already here, because this guy makes people make an image to it. And I'm telling you, that means the thing is already here. Something people follow right now. Now, we're not talking about an object. It must be intangible. It must be something you cannot touch, but something you interact with on a daily basis. Something you follow, something you bow to, something that governs your life. And it must govern your life right now. Something you're proud about, something you'll fight for, but again, something you cannot touch. It must be seeable, but you must not be able to see it in one place. You must see it everywhere. It must be in the realm of reality and not spiritual. We know it's not spiritual because all the other gods were spiritual. It must be tangible. It must be something people have instant consequences behind and rewards when in agreement to. It must be something right here, right now. Now it says the world worshiped the first beast who had a deadly wound by a sword or a country that fell by war, but it lived. So one of the nations involved in this collection of nations, an image is made to it. Common iconography we deal with today, and people worship it. But how do you do that? In Revelation, it clearly states that the world worshiped the beast. So everybody should see it now. But if they worship the first beast, and in the book of Daniel, the world worships this. That's what he made for the world to worship, with a strange God. That's what the strange God is, a God that has not been previously known. A strange God would be something you wouldn't really call a God. That's why strange, it's unknown, it has no context. Anytime the Bible uses the word strange garments or strange God, it's speaking about something that is not known of. Now, we know by Revelation that he causes the world to worship the first beast. So we know that the first beast, the collection of nations, the 7 nations, are what people are worshiping. This is the strange God. But it also says, he honors the God of forces. God on whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. He honors that God, but he makes the world worship the first beast. What is worship? I give you a short definition. It's voluntary observance. It's when no one really forces you, but you voluntarily observe something. They may teach you about it, but you voluntarily observe it. It also says they worship the dragon. Notice the word dragon is used, and the draconian system itself is used. The dragon that had 7 heads is mirrored by the earthly beast who looks just like the dragon. So Satan copied his structure, made it in the earth, and that's what men follow. But they had been worshiping the dragon, which means the system had been set up a long time ago. Do people worship something in the earth right now? Let me tell it to you this way. In comparison to the living God, there is something else in the world that men put before him all the time. There are ideologies of men that are propped up in this world. These ideologies are everywhere. And if a person dies who gave the ideology lives on. I want you guys to think about something I mentioned a long time ago. Something like the rule of law. The rule of law does not need a person to keep it because everybody keeps it. If a whole generation dies, another will be erected with the rule of law. We teach other people to keep the rule of law. In other words, I want you to think of the rule of law as a standard that outlives humans. In fact, presidents are impeached by it. A president can never be above it. They must obey it. In fact, the whole world must obey it. But the rule of law is something man-made. It's not divine. With the rule of law is a lifestyle that says you cannot bring faith into courts. You cannot make a recordable topic based upon speculation of spirit, but it must be fact, or or it does not exist. Only what can be seen can be acknowledged. People break their necks to position themselves in the world to get gain in this system. It's all over the world, but more so in the Middle East than anywhere else. Let me introduce you to something. See, in the Middle East, there is the rule of law, and there's a type of constitution. And this constitution, if somebody makes an infraction, other people will seek to kill that person. If someone does not obey it, bye-bye to that person. Anybody who does not obey it is killed. And guess what? Unless you agree to follow it, you cannot be a citizen anywhere on the earth. Isn't that funny? It's already here. If the rule of law demands something, it takes an interpreter, or let's just say a prophet of that rule of law, to enforce or to get somebody away from it. It forgives based upon conditions that are already written. So it has servitude already, and it outlives people. But there was always a missing element. A missing element that's coming in now is called science. A fact-based system that does not permit faith-based works. You can be sued for laying your hands upon somebody and they die through negligence. You can be locked up for praying for someone when the rule of law states they need something else. It overrides any authority on the earth. Doesn't matter who the authority is, it overrides it. And for the most part, each country worships their own constitution, and they will kill to keep it. They do whatever it demands. It protects great evils, and it permits a way in the world based in competition, based in taking care of numero uno. It is a concept that has become real. It is a way of life that everybody's born into. It is a system that is inescapable. And if you're not part of that system, you can have no credentials. And if you have no credentials, you have no country. And if you have no country, what can you do? What can you or I do if we do not have a country? Which means if you're not a citizen of a place, if you cannot be ID'd, you won't be buying anything. You won't be selling anything, will you? So we know that part of the system everybody's looking for is already in play and is right here among us. And people have devoted themselves to it. In fact, just about all the fights you see on television are because of that system. They're not for any other reason. Each person interprets that system differently. They will fight to the death to keep it. And if the people get replaced, somebody else is born that will uphold it. So they have made it eternal. And now it lives by itself. It lives by itself because whether people follow it or not, it still exists. And someone will come along and be subservient to it. It has never existed before that way. Now that it's a global standard and it rules over everybody, there you go. This thing, this man, is going to take it to a brand new level, making an image to the first beast. But within that first beast, here's what's kind of somewhat spooky. Because right now, you could go and tell anybody, oh yes, I love this country and I love my country, this, that, and the other. But you see every day people out there blowing things up, terrorism. But terrorism was not enough to cause anybody to come up with a system to see if a person was really subservient or not. But domestic terrorism is. Listen to me carefully. Because now the enemy is within, right? It used to be the enemy was African American or the enemy was Mexican or something like that. The enemy was Middle Eastern. That's not the case now. Now you don't know who the enemy is. Domestic terrorism is on the rise. Now there's a need to know who's loyal to the system and who is not. Now we have artificial intelligence, but even before that was in play, do you not know a system was in place? The FBI, CIA, all government agencies have them. They don't use them all the time, but they have them. And when you speak to any official on the phone, it can tell if you're lying or not. You guys know that, right? Do you not know that a couple of years ago, scientists figured out how to take your memories and make a photograph of your memories based upon your brain waves of what you're seeing in your head. So now all devices are sensors of you. All your devices are able to record all bio data. All these people wearing Fitbit and all these things, they're just reporting bio data. And what they're doing is they refine the system in buying all this gadgetry. And they have perfected a system they know nothing about. It takes only one person to enable the whole thing. And there you have a predictive system, which means you're not going to fool it. Now, because of domestic terrorism, they want to know who's a loyal citizen and who is not. You will not be able to prove you're a loyal citizen. When this thing is brought to bear, it will determine what you are. And based upon it, you'll likely live or die, be locked up or not. Because if you're not able to buy or sell, then you're in jail. In fact, I looked at something in the Koine Greek of which that was originally written, and not being able to buy or sell was a direct correlation of somebody who was in prison. If you can't buy or sell, you're imprisoned. That means all your rights have been surrendered. You have no rights at all. This system, these things, ladies and gentlemen, all stem from the God of forces, a brand new God, something man created that happens to be useful. I see it as pure evil. Why? Because good people are dying for this evil system. You have people that believe in it. Not necessarily, they will hate the people and take human life for it. It's already had its sacrifices. When they go to war, you may not understand this, but to spill blood over an advisement from a system is weird. It's backward. That's what men are doing. They will say, or even in government, they say or they do not say based upon what? Predictive systems. See, in my life, I care less about animals and trees and all that compared to humanity. I will never feed a dog before I feed a hungry human. That's just the type of person I am. I'm not one of those who's going to kill a person over an animal or a tree or anything else. But human life is sacred to me because it is precious to the Father, and everything else is made for the sake of humanity. If you're thinking of it any other way, you put yourself in danger. If the apple of God's eye is not the apple of your eye, you're out of tune, and you're subject to do everything the God of forces requires. This thing honors the God of forces. It honors a method of life that manipulates other people into doing things. Since you have been born, you've been manipulated to do everything. It's not that you chose it. You've been forced into it. It is against the law for you not to have an education, and that's all over the earth. You're not going to sit home and not go to school and be educated in certain ways. You're not going to speak about it either. You don't dare speak about it. Because if you do, they'll hunt you down right now. You start working against the system, and I'll tell you something. It will be one thing if people fought for one another, but they don't. They fight to implement their part of the system. Open your eyes and see it. They're not fighting for their neighbor. They're fighting to implement their part of a system, not even knowing that all of it's part of a whole. Every single side is fighting not for you, but for a portion of the system they believe in. Haven't you noticed? Weren't you here to see the elections? What were they truly fighting over? They fought over something, and it was not you. They use you to promote the system. They scare you to promote the system. I'm just telling you the facts. I'm telling you the truth. But so many people cannot see it because the knowledge of God is lost. The system is everything to them. They're handing people peanuts, and they complain about that. It seems more like this world and this lifestyle is a delusion. And the fruit of it is murder. Through murder it was born. Through oppression and slavery and murder and manipulation it was born. It was born in iniquity. It will perish in iniquity. We have a habit. We were brought up to see it from the outside, not knowing what was on the inside, nor did we know what it takes to keep it running. It requires the blood of people, the sweat of people, determination of people. That's what it requires. See, God's kingdom, you don't have to slay 5 people to have a good thing. No, but the world taught you that you did. This God of forces, if we just talk about the forces side, do you not know that you've been raised to operate by this very thing? Let me give you an example. To not operate by manipulation, to not force a person to do something, is to have a person react on a voluntary basis of their own choice. That's not how the world works. You know what the world says? They give you A and B, and they say, choose one. Now, A is still in the system, and B is in the system, but they tell you to choose one. That's just like people who come to America, they say, well, are you a Democrat or a Republican? That's what they'll say. And then based upon how you see the system, you'll choose one or the other. But both are of that system. That's why I tell everybody I meet, God gives me my rights, not man. So my life is not hinged upon what man gave me, but because people worship the works of their own hands. That means what they wrote, what they installed, because they worship it. and calls others to also worship it, which was spoken about by the prophets over and over and over again, even warned about by the living God over and over and over again. It's almost invisible in our day and age. It's thought of as nothing when it's everything. Look at all these strange holidays they come up with. National Pancake Day, National this, that, and the other day. And do you not know, people say that they're doing their patriotic duty to have Hot Dog Day or something like that they were having. And that people who did not do those things, they should be kicked out of the country. People have strong feelings behind it, and they will kill you for it over something foolish. This is what the world has become. How do we get back to where we were? Well, the hardest job is to get a person to see again. Christ will do that. He will restore sight to the blind. He commissions us to do the same. To see what? To see the truth. Not to operate in darkness anymore, not knowing the truth, but living your life, but to open your eyes and to see the truth and live with sight. Everything is designed to feed a narrative. You're manipulated just about every step of the way. I looked at all the bad stuff in every single presidency, all of them. They always give a warning of what's going to happen with the next guy. And to date, it has never happened. Yet, people keep falling for the same stuff again. I remember one time they said, well, we're getting a Democrat in power. This is back in the 80s. They said they're going to raise taxes. And they did. They said, oh, when they raise taxes, we're going to have we've been having an economic collapse since the day I can remember. Where's it at? They've been coming to get the guns since 1986. They didn't do it yet. What took place? They've been cleaning up Washington since the 60s. What happened to that? I'm trying to tell you something. When you feed into the paradigm of this world with these, where they have erected things that people worship, and you get caught in that trap, that's when you start believing in ludicrous things. And the bottom line is this, folks. Our Father teaches us, you'll know a tree by its fruit. The fruit of all these mechanisms of mankind is to murder your neighbor, not to love your neighbor. Somebody once said, if you have a good friend, it's just because you haven't really seen them yet. So you call everybody a good friend until you see what they're capable of. This is the thought patterns of the world. That stuff is dark. But what does our Father say to us? He tells us to love our neighbor like we would love ourselves. That means we don't put anything before our neighbor. Be no respecter of persons in a dispute, but to have your decision be made not because of partiality, but because of truth. And if you can't handle the situation, if you were put in that predicament, leave it to the Lord. That's what he said. We're told to forgive, but that's not what people do. Have you noticed that the more, it seems like in this world, the more people are so devoted to whatever documents they have in their nation, the more they're calling out for revenge. I've noticed that. God said, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Do not touch it. We were instructed never to go that way and do not touch vengeance. But the world encourages it. They operate by it every single day. Their principles are based upon it. It is impossible that a person accepting the truth of the word of the living God be bound anymore. That means if we stick with the word, freedom will be granted. Chains will be broken because the living God made principles, and I'm telling you, they are at work. Today, ask yourself, though, what do you really believe in? Man's methods and things, or your Father's methods and things?